A photograph fell out of a book this morning. I was looking for a passage I had marked in 2019, a book about the Mediterranean. The photograph was inside it as a bookmark. James and me, in the garden, must have been taken in the early 90s. He is holding a glass of wine. I am laughing at something outside the frame. We look healthy. I stood there looking at it, the two of us in our 50s, looking like people who had no idea how long they had, which of course we did not. My name is Dorothy Sinclair. I am 89 years old. I walk every morning. I read every day. My mind works well enough to argue with my grandson about literature and win. People ask me what I eat. This surprises me, because the answer is not dramatic. It is almost boring. But I will tell you all of it, plainly, the way I try to tell most things. And I want to say something first about what I have learned about the relationship between food and a long life, because it is not what people usually expect. People want the secret ingredient, the one thing, the specific supplement or superfood that explains everything. There is no one thing. What there is a long, consistent accumulation of ordinary choices, made imperfectly, made repeatedly, over decades. That is the actual answer, and it is less satisfying than a single secret, but it is true. The first thing. I eat real food. I know that sounds so simple as to be useless. Stay with me. When I was teaching, and particularly when the children were young, we ate from scratch. Not because I was particularly health conscious, because I was trained by my mother, who was trained by hers, and neither of them bought anything in a packet if they could help it. That habit stayed. I still make a proper broth on Sundays, from bones, the old-fashioned kind. I chop the vegetables myself, let it sit. I eat vegetables every day, not supplements, not powder, actual vegetables, cooked simply. I have a bowl of porridge for breakfast at least 5 mornings a week, have done since the 1970s. James always said my porridge was the most reliable thing about me. I chose to take that as a compliment. What I mean by real food is not fashionable food. I am not talking about the latest diet or the most expensive ingredient. I am talking about food that was grown somewhere, that you can identify, that you prepare yourself. Food that has not passed through a factory and arrived in packaging that lists 40 ingredients. My mother would not have recognized most of what is sold in supermarkets today as food, and I think she would have been right. The second thing. I use olive oil, a great deal of it. This started in 1981 when James and I went to Florence. We ate things there I had never tasted. The olive oil was on everything: bread, salad, vegetables, soup. I came home and began using it instead of the alternatives. I have used it every day since, 44 years. I do not know the science behind all of it. I do know my heart has given me no serious trouble, and I have eaten a great deal of olive oil. Perhaps there is a connection, perhaps not, but it tastes magnificent, so I am keeping it. What I will say is this: when James and I were in Florence that week, we noticed that the people around us, the older people particularly, seemed to carry themselves differently. There was a woman in a restaurant one evening who must have been in her 80s. She ate slowly, She ate well. She clearly took pleasure in the meal. I remember thinking, she eats as if eating matters, not just as fuel, as something worth giving attention to. I have tried to eat that way ever since. Third, I eat fish twice a week. Not because anyone told me to, because I grew up near the coast, because fish is what my family ate, because I like it. Simple things prepared simply have always appealed to me. I have never trusted food that requires explanation. Salmon, cod, a good piece of smoked mackerel on a Friday, with something green alongside. James preferred meat. We negotiated, as couples do. We had both. But I notice now, at 89, that the meals I feel best after are not the heavy ones. The body, at this age, is very clear about what it prefers. It prefers the fish. It prefers the vegetables. It prefers the simple thing, prepared well, eaten slowly. I listen to it now more than I did at 50. That is probably the real lesson. Fourth, I eat berries every single day. This is the one William started. He read something, he is always reading something, and he told me in 2016 that I needed to start eating more blueberries. I believe children reach an age where they begin trying to parent their parents. William reached it somewhat earlier than average. But he was right. I started. On porridge, with yogurt, sometimes plain in the afternoon. I notice them when I do not have them. The days without berries feel, I do not know how to say it precisely, slightly less clean. Whether that is the berries or my imagination, I cannot say, but I eat them either way. There is something to be said at any age for the small daily rituals that are also good for you. They serve two purposes at once. They nourish the body and they mark the rhythm of the day. The bowl of berries in the morning is not just food. It is a way of saying, this day is beginning and I am in it. Fifth, I eat very little sugar. This was not always true. I am the child of a woman who baked, real baking, cakes, puddings, things that required significant amounts of sugar. I loved it. I baked the same way through my children's childhoods. In my 60s, my doctor asked me to cut back. I cut back. Not entirely. Never entirely. I still have a piece of cake when Catherine makes one. I still have a biscuit with my afternoon tea. One biscuit, the good kind. But the daily sweetness, the casual sweetness, I reduced. And over years the palate adjusts. Things I used to find normal now taste too sweet. James always said, you adapt to whatever you consistently choose. He meant it about character. It is equally true about taste. And perhaps about everything. What you practice, you become. What you eat regularly, you come to need. What you feed yourself, whether it is food or thoughts or conversations, shapes what you are capable of. That is, I think, worth sitting with. Sixth, I drink water, a great deal of it, and tea, hot tea, several times a day, properly made, in a pot, not a tea bag in a cup. That one is non-negotiable. I realize this may seem small, but I notice at 89 that how much I drink matters more than it did at 50. The body makes it known very clearly. And the tea is not merely hydration. The tea is ritual. It is the pause in the morning, the pause at 3 in the afternoon, the small ceremony of the pot and the cup, and the sitting down for a moment with something warm. Rituals are underrated, particularly in old age. When the days can run together if you let them, a ritual says, "Here is a moment, pay attention to it." The tea does that for me, every time. 7th, I eat with other people, whenever I can. This is the one people overlook when they ask about food. They want the list of ingredients, the specific nutrients. But the context in which you eat is part of the nutrition. James and I sat at a table for almost every meal we shared for 58 years. Not the television, not separately, together. Now I eat most meals alone. But Friday evenings I am at Catherine's. Wednesday lunches William and I have started doing when he is in town. A meal is not just fuel, it is a ritual. It says, "This moment is worth sitting down for." At 89, I believe that more than I did at 50. There is something about eating with another person that slows the meal down. You talk, you pause, you set the fork down. You eat at the pace of a conversation rather than the pace of hunger. And food eaten slowly, attended to properly, does something different to the body. I cannot prove this, but I believe it. 8th, I stopped eating when I was no longer hungry. This sounds simple. It is not. We eat for many reasons that are not hunger. I know because I did it for decades. Stress, loneliness, boredom, the particular emptiness of a quiet evening. When James was alive, there was always the meal together that anchored the evening. After he died, evenings unmoored a little. I found myself in the kitchen at 9 o'clock, not hungry, just directionless. I learned to notice the difference. Am I hungry or am I lonely? Am I hungry or am I avoiding something? Usually it was the second. A glass of water and a book solved it more reliably than food. This is not, I think, a discipline question. It is a noticing question. The body is quite honest about what it actually needs. The difficulty is that we have learned to stop listening. Start listening again. It will tell you things. 9th, I eat dark chocolate. This is the item I knew you were waiting for, something indulgent. 2 or 3 squares, good quality, most evenings, after tea. James always kept it in the 3rd drawer of the kitchen. I maintain the tradition. It is a very small way of keeping him close, but it works. And the pleasure of it matters. I want to say that plainly. A life without pleasure is not a long life well lived. It is a long life endured. The small pleasures, the squares of good chocolate, the proper cup of tea, the Friday meal at Catherine's, those are not indulgences to be managed. They are reasons, small ones, daily ones, reasons to be present in the life you have. At 89, I know this more than I knew it at 50. And the 10th. I am not disciplined about any of this. I want to say that clearly because people think longevity requires rigid perfection. It does not. I have eaten things I should not have eaten, drunk wine on evenings when water would have been wiser, had the second biscuit, eaten lunch standing at the counter because I could not be bothered to set the table. What I have done is consistently return to the good habits, not because I am disciplined, because I value the life they support. And that is a different kind of motivation, one that holds better. Discipline requires willpower. Willpower runs out. Values do not. If you eat well because you are trying to comply with a rule, the day will come when you do not comply, and then the rule feels broken and everything feels permitted. If you eat well because you have decided your life is worth caring for, the day when you eat badly is simply a day. Tomorrow you return, not with guilt, with intention. That returning is the thing, not the perfection, the returning. I looked at the photograph for a long time this morning, James and me in the garden, looking healthy, not knowing. We did many things right without knowing we were doing them right. We ate together, we walked, we slept, we cooked. We chose ordinary things consistently. That is, I think, most of the answer. If you want the secret to a long life, look at your ordinary things. They are doing more than you know. Leave me a comment with what you eat that you think makes the difference. I am genuinely curious. I might learn something. And if this was useful, share it. If only for the dark chocolate recommendation. That one I stand behind completely.